Wait for the countdown.
I need to repower this thing on.
It will shut that down. You can go ahead. It's our backup audio.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call this council work session to order. It's Wednesday, January 3rd. The time is 2 p.m. Go ahead and turn it over to our clerk, please.
Yes, good afternoon, council. I have a statement I'd like to read to our public and to our council. On October 18th, 2023, local community member Heather Epperly and Halloween Parade committee members appeared before the city council to voice their displeasure with the level of service the St. Helens Police Department provided during the Halloween parade. After Ms. Epperly finished speaking, I made a public comment disagreeing with her statements. My actions contradict our city mantra, which partially states, public comment is a time for listening rather than time to engage in dialogue. I'm here today to offer a public apology for my comments that afternoon to Ms. Epperly and the members of the Halloween Parade Committee. On December 21st, 2023, I met with Ms. Epperly in person and offered my apologies as well. We are both committed to strengthening our communication surrounding the future parades to ensure we have a betterment for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
I'd like to make a public apology to Russ Hubbard for they had ex parte contact referring to that, and that it wasn't. In fact, it was a city document that you were producing. So I apologize to you, Russ. You're straight. So now that we've got those out of the way, let's go ahead and open it up for visitor comments. If you'd like to come on up, please keep your us and state your name for the record.
I'm not handicapped.
Brady Prehine. So, I wanted to, correct information that you were given about the tourism fund. The, section 3.20.7070 of your administrator code talks specifically about the tourism fund and says that you will 91% of the money collected from the hotel motel tax will be spent on tourism. Period. So that's it. You don't get to choose or get a say or do what Mr. Walsh said and said we can divert it to the general fund. You cannot. At least 91% of it, and there's a 9%. I guess administration fee, but besides that, it needs to be sent on tourism, period. And the fact that you have a plan to remove that from your tourism director is stupid because no one here knows what to do with the money. Period. I mean, we spent it for years and never got anything for it. So the fact that you would take it from tourism and I don't know what you do with it is dumb. You know, the council needs to be smarter. I mean, you've made a lot of mistakes. You've made admitted mistakes. You just recently voted in the emergency resolution to fix First Street because you didn't have an RFP out there. And then you learn from that mistake, so you turn around and now we're talking about doing an RFP for tourism. You got into that trouble because you didn't do the RFP in time. If you really want to do an RFP for tourism, for 2025, you start that now. You don't start it a month after your contract has expired. That's just stupid. So you need to sign your tourism contract and you need to move on. And if you want to do something next year for 2025, that's fine. Halloween Town doesn't get planned now. Tina's been planning Halloween Town since last summer. That's how it works. And clearly the fact that you think that, oh, we can negotiate a contract now when we're already in the middle of our season just tells you how much little you know about how tourism is done. It's not done that way. Those people that come here, the celebrities, they are booked months, years in advance. You cannot change the contract now. If you want to change something, now is the time to do it in 2025. Find your current contract. Dedicate all the money that you collect, which must be sent on tourism to her. And if you want to plan on doing something again in a year from now, great. You don't kill the goose. Don't lay the golden egg. It's that simple. You don't.
My name is Ron Tromlins. The Walker Consultants Report is the client privilege report that John Walsh states the report is being withheld. The City of St. Helens client privilege is a report that has the ability to disclose the city's participation that led up to the 2 million gallon reservoir rehabilitation failure. I consider the Walker Consultants investigation and autopsy of the city's and Kennedy Jenks treatment plan, which caused the death of the reservoir. The city claimed it was the result of workmanship that caused the rehabilitation failure. The city says that it could repair it with a new contractor. The facts have not all been disclosed. Concrete core samples should have been taken as a pre-estimate before the W49 contract was bid. They weren't taken until 6 weeks after the settlement and mutual release agreement. Core samples report, page 1, CTL group report. The liner coating was attempted. However, the liner would not adhere well to the concrete. The contractor made the comment that loose sand was present on the concrete surface prior to the application. The city was in charge of inspection. Their investigation and consultants was notified. There was no oversight during the geotextile mat and Reactamine 760 application. Core number 2 and core number 8 were tested, but testing of 6 and 7 was not. Core number 2 at the liner concrete interface, a crack and microcrack representing the concrete. 1 to 2 millimeters from the concrete outer surface. The liner was pulled apart at this outer 2 millimeter concrete and is adhered to the bottom of the liner. Number 8 liner was detached from the concrete along the edge of the core wall. Some of the underlying concrete up to 2 millimeters thick was adhered to the underside of the debunked portion of the liner. Based upon the results of this petrographic examination, the cause for the detached liner from the concrete is due to microcracked and soft paste in the outer region of the concrete, which failed from the forces put forward by the liner. Microcracks in both cores of the outer region of the concrete contain microcracks parallel to the outer surface. They are present to a depth of 1 to 2 millimeters in core 2 and 8 millimeters in core 8. Now the top 3/10 of an inch parallel microcracks and another microcrack present in number 8. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
All right, other visitor comment?
I have none on Zoom.
On Zoom? Not on Zoom, so if you want to speak, now's the time.
Even Topaz, could I have my slide, please? Slide is for background.
Was told by IT to not accept USB drives here. Is that, yeah, that's our standard.
When was that presented publicly? Up until last year, last meeting, that was, people did present their slides. Was that an administrative decision?
We don't take slides at whim.
When was that
The slideshows via
presented to
email.
the people?
They were sent to us via email, not using a zip drive. A zip
They
drive
have been
is
up until last year, because I've done it and so did Steve Tachi do it.
Give us our own, and we went home and decided. to-
No, that's that's a slide having to do not with what I want to talk about. So that is a new administrative rule, is that correct? No slides.
No, you can send slides via email.
That is not presented in your things. Slides have been presented by coming in person and give it, because I've done it before, okay.
The security rent, take USBs at random.
They carry virus.
Never mind, we'll just leave it there. I will send you what the slide says. The presentation of the progress of developing a city park should be reviewed where the community can have an input. The project has been redesigned a number of times after it had been first presented to the community. Now the community should have a final say if this is what should actually be built. Just recently, President Biden and the tribes have come to an agreement on protecting the salmon in the Columbia River for the amount of $600 million. This money is to be used to clean up the river. St. Helens with its mills has historically been a large polluter of the river. And some of the recent studies of our waterfront cooling pond, paper mill, creosote plant, ceiling tile plants says it still is. Has the city asked the Army Corps, EPA, Federal Fish and Wildlife Departments, and the DEQ how this cleanup plan affects our plans? A number of studies have been done on our waterfront, cooling pond, mills, and other properties have shown they contain contaminated materials that, because of the changing river levels, affect the groundwater, which carry these contaminated products into the river. Mold forces studies on the waterfront and cooling pond indicate the ground levels change 2 feet with a tide. DEQ and geotech studies indicate seasonal changes on the order of 20 feet with an additional 2-foot change with the tide. And this in and outflow of groundwater not only carries contaminants, but also causes cave-ins, demonstrated that the stability of the land next to the river is unstable. Wolforther indicated in its study of the waterfront, it could be used for commercial uses if the contaminated soil was removed. In the study of the cooling pond, it was indicated that if it was filled in, it could not support any structure. A major effort would have to be put into its foundations. DEQ in the study of the creosote plant indicated to keep this property from contaminating the river, it would require an impervious wall from surface to the bedrock to stop the contaminated material from entering the river. Another DEQ study at the mill plant indicated that it would require a 5-foot sand barrier to contain the contaminated river bottom. DEQ also said this could change if they investigated the land portion of the paper mill. If a visual inspection is made of the waterfront, it can see by the changes in the old pilings that this property is slowly moving into the river. This edge movement with the landslide location at the proposed city park will definitely change the river walk over time. With the federal government beginning to be involved in the cleanup of the river, what are the changes to our present plans that the city of St. Helens should be instituting?
My name is Lori Armstrong, and I'm here to represent the Christians in this community and in our county. And it's very clear to me and to many others in this community that the decorations in the square are representing something that we don't celebrate for Christmas. Okay. We want to bring in a nativity in the center square to celebrate Jesus. We don't celebrate the golden calf, which is the horned ones. We don't worship Baal, we worship Jesus. We worship the Savior of this world. And I would like I have a question and I would like answers from you as well, if possible. I don't know how I would get them after I speak. But I've noticed that a handful of people are choosing these decorations in Center Square. They depict the Wiccan decorations. I don't know if you're aware of that. So it's kind of a handful of people, to me, it's kind of what it looks like, are choosing those decorations to claim that land for a specific religion. When you're not really communicating with the Christian communities in the county and in the city. I will mention that I have spoke to Terry Wacker at the Warren Community Fellowship Church. He's willing to pay for it all. As far as making a nativity. And we're partnering with many other believers in the area. We're saying, no, we don't want this represented and leaving out, what the Christians celebrate on Christmas as well as Easter. And we'd love to put a cross up there. I'm curious as to, who decides those statues that are in our center square. And from what I understand, that center square is county owned. So either you have to let us put it into there, or you have to get rid of those pagan statues that you've displayed in our city square. We don't celebrate Baal. What about the other statues? I'm curious. This is another question I have. So, who has the authority to put that new statue out there? And the new black cat that's looking over the children's playground. Because those represent Wiccan symbolism. Okay. So we would like, as Christians, to claim some area that we had no choice in the matter. Okay. And any way that I can get, feedback, because we would like to move forward in this. We would like to move forward in putting a nativity up next Christmas, as well as a cross for Easter. And maybe, depending on, if we can, put a cross right in the center of that god beast man that represents the demon Dagon. He's basically the demon of Baphomet. We don't believe that God can bless a city that is partnering with that. Okay? So that's why I'm here. I'm representing Christians in this city and in this county. And I would like feedback. I'd like direction as to, what we can do next. Okay? Thank you.
I'll be in touch with you, okay? That's what
Okay.
we'll talk, probably not right now, but we'll talk and we'll be open discussion.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Okay. Do you want me to stick around then?
Won't be today, probably.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Be in touch for sure.
All right. Thank you.
Any other visitor comments? Okay, let's go on to our first item, which is a review revised Riverwalk plan, Shannon Sims with Mayor Reed. And hopefully we'll be able to get around.
Shannon, do you want to test your mic?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Let me turn you up just so we can hear. Try again.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
Perfect.
All right.
Great.
Great, so I'm gonna run through a couple slides here and then kick it to Shannon, who can then talk about Columbia View Park updates. And we'll keep this flowing and then make it more informal discussion at the end. So the last time we talked about Columbia View Park was actually April 5th. This was when we did a rendering of what the stage would look like. And council at that time provided notice to proceed to move into construction documents, which then we bid in July through September. And then we received 3 bids on September. And just a reminder, there was discussion when the last personal services agreement amendment was on the council agenda. So I just wanted to go over how this project is getting funded. So the first 2 grants listed here are Oregon Parks and Recreation Department grants. The local government grant program is funding $338,000. The Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, Oregon Parks and Recreation Land and Water Conservation Grant is funding just under $1 million. And then most recently, we received a Travel Oregon grant for $100,000. And then previous fiscal years, we allocated $1 million in park system development charges towards this project. So when you tally all of that up, we're looking at $2.3 million in grant funding for this project. And then the remainder of our $3 million construction budget and all the design work is the Urban Renewal Agency contribution. So Urban Renewal has a list of projects, eligible projects, and the Riverwalk project was listed as an eligible project. So that's how the remainder of the project's getting funded. So any questions about the sources of funding before I move on? All right, great. So in January 2023, amazingly a year ago, we did a cost estimate. We were at about a 90% design at that point. And you don't have to read all of this, but I've highlighted here the total anticipated construction budget at that point was $3.1 million. That included everything, the stage, the pavilion, the playground. So we were looking good. We were excited. We were going to be able to do the entire project as designed. And then we bid the project. So this was just the site plan that we bid, including all of the project components. We received 3 bids, Colf Construction, Kodiak Pacific Construction, and Tapani. And the average bid was $5.2 million. So from January 2023 to September 2023, somehow the costs escalated. So that forced John and I to look at our priorities with this project and to think about what we can cut and still move forward and not all of the grant funding that we've been working on for over 2 years at this point. And so at the bottom here, you can see how the stage structure, the attached stage storage structure, the pavilion, and the playground, when you kind of average up, you add up all of those components, we can get a little bit closer to 3 million in our construction budget, not completely, but it almost gets us to our targeted $3 million amount. And so that's what Shannon is here to talk about today, is what our revised plan looks like.
And when was the original timeline for the bids?
So we ended up bidding the project from July to September of this year.
How long is the grant money good for?
So there are 2 different grant programs, but they do try to work together. So the local government grant program is a little bit shorter of a time frame, but it does allow extensions. So we got the grant award in 2020. We've extended it. I don't know what the cap extension is, but they know that we're planning on construction in 2023, and that's cool with them. The Land and Water Conservation Grant has a 5-year horizon, so it's much more flexible, but we're kind of tied to the local government grant program. And now the Travel Oregon grant program as well, like they expect construction to happen in 2023.
Okay.
My question before we get started would be probably for you and Shannon would be, make sense to re-put this out for bid? And because what I'm hearing from bigger contractors, as of the last 2 months, where there used to be only 6 bids on a job, there are 12 to 15 bids on a job, and guys are underbidding.
It's a
Was the
competitive.
second lowest bid, and he said, I don't know how the lowest bidder made, gonna make money at it.
Yeah, that's great for
Yes,
us.
that is great for us.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be one of my questions, and maybe you already have answers to that.
Sure, yeah, we can touch on that.
We're
Let's,
gonna have to go out for bid if we've changed what we're asking for to
Yes.
be done, so no
Yep.
matter what, it's gonna have to be bid.
yeah, and ideally you want to bid in the winter. So this is a much better time to be bidding a project so that people can get their construction schedule ready for the summer.
Jenny, just to clarify, you said construction in 2023.
I'm sorry, I meant 2024, yeah. New year.
Sorry about that, Shannon.
So I'll tee it up, is this big enough? I can zoom in a little bit. I think that's probably better. Oh yeah, there's physical copies too. The color might come out a little bit better on the printed version, I noticed. Especially on these berms, but anyway, Shannon, take it away.
Okay, hi everyone. I'll just walk you through what the graphic is showing on the screen. So this is our revised plan, having taken into account the value engineering that we discussed with Jenny and John after analyzing those bids that were much higher than we anticipated. So I guess overall, just to say, we did refocus our efforts just on the Riverwalk, the main Riverwalk component, the pathway along the edge of the riverbank. And that is largely unchanged from the design that we had in the previous bid package, and that you've been seeing the progress of that over the past several years. So just kind of starting from the south, we still have that wide 13-foot wide pathway with the overlook at the south end, that's in line with the Cowlitz Street extension that's being built. It's underway right now as part of the First and Strand Street project. We still have the pathways connecting up to that project and then further up to Strand Street. We do still have benches and seat walls as part of the design along the edge, and the walls and the railings and the signage that we have been working on all this time. So that the project is much simpler now because we have removed the new stage. So you see the existing stage and dance floor, and many of the pathways connecting right around the stage are remaining in place. The existing amphitheater is still remaining, which was also the plan in the previous scheme. And then also a change is that in addition to preserving the splash pad, we're now preserving the existing playground in its entirety. So all from the splash pad across the playground going all the way up to the wall is now existing to remain. So I'll note that there's flexible lawn area now on both sides of the playground because we're filling in that area between where the playground exists today and where the Cowlitz Street area is being built. And that's good news. If there's ever funding in the future to upgrade that playground, that means there's space on either side of it for a future design to come in and be implemented. Similar to the existing stage, there's a lot of flexible space around that area. So that if there's funding in the future for a new stage, that will still be possible. So it's very much our intent to save costs now, but not preclude you from making upgrades in the future if that's possible. I think if you just go back one slide, Jenny, to the previous scheme, you'll see that the connection from the base of the stairs used to skew down towards the southeast. And now because we're preserving the playground, if you go to the current design, that connection is still there. It's just been adjusted so that it works better around the existing features that we're trying to preserve, and also helps us preserve as much existing paving because we found that concrete costs were very high in the bids that we got. So this scheme, although a lot of it kind of preserves the bones of what we had proposed previously, it does represent a reduction in overall concrete paving and concrete site walls. The connections to the north are still very similar to how they were before. There's a pathway leading to the courthouse parking lot, and then one that leads to the existing gangway that goes down to the docks. There's still intended to be wayfinding signage there, so people arriving by boat to the city will still be able to kind of navigate through downtown from that point. And I think other minor changes just have been to the slight changes to circulation connecting internal to the park, and a reshuffling of the berms around the two sides of that adjusted pathway. But overall, I would say the design intent of what we were trying to build along the riverfront edge is still here. And we'll be also looking at preserving as much underground utilities as possible in the revised scheme, since we're leaving a lot more of the existing park alone. Anything else to add to that, Jenny or John?
Just one note that I think the desire line, when you're up top and you're trying to get to the water, is this straight line to the Riverwalk itself. And so I think having this linear connection will be the desired route already. And by adding these two berms that kind of frame that walkway, I think it makes it a little bit more of a grand entrance when you're entering the park as a pedestrian. You know, we've got this grand entrance for vehicles and the turnaround as the entry to the Riverwalk, particularly when the Riverwalk extends further south, you know, that will be sort of the drop off point. But I think this new walkway will help kind of define the space a little bit better. You've got your play on the other side, you've got your event space on the other side. And I think this berm would be where I want to sit during 13 nights. Since I tend to kind of gravitate away from the crowd behind the existing stage. So I think this will be a great seating area. It'll add seating in an area that just used to be flexible lawn space. So that's my only thought to add. John, do you have any thoughts before we open it up?
Yeah, just that the revisions that we made here are attempt to, downsize the project enough to preserve the elements so they can happen in the future when funding becomes available. And also just meet the expectations of our grant funders and use the funds and not lose them.
No, you're opening up to.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were ready
Yeah.
for us to talking or not. Okay. I was just gonna ask you, you made a quick comment about the south pathway. As we're looking at the older models up on the wall in here, we're missing that part of the project. So are we saying that is going to be up to discussion in the future? Is it off the table now?
Are you talking about this area here?
Well, it going all the way down to the end, like we initially intended for the Riverwalk to go all the way down to the end, right?
Yeah, so this connection, one day will connect to phase 2 when there's additional funding. Yeah, this part, right now it will stop and you'll connect into the walkway. Hopefully we'll still have an interim path when construction's over. That connects to the bluff trail and goes all the way down. But yeah, right now this has always been the plan for phase 1.
The stage as it's currently designed, it'll fit within that space pretty well.
So the new stage design, making you dizzy, Shannon. Are you asking if this stage design would fit? It's potential.
I mean, you've got the grass and everything. Is that still the plan? Is that it would fit with what you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that John and I have thought that far ahead. At this point, we're just planning to have an area where a stage can go. Is it the stage that we've designed? I hope so. Maybe.
Shouldn't that be thought?
Yeah, it would technically fit. I mean, the footprint of what we designed already would fit in the future here. I think if we were to build what you see on the screen first and then come back later to build a stage, there might be just minor adjustments to how exactly that fits around everything surrounding it. But there's nothing in this current design that would preclude a stage similar or same to that one that's being installed.
From the diagrams, it looks like the stage is further back into the flexible lawn area though, and turned. So that would mean that those pathways that we're gonna put in now would need to be taken out and readjusted to put in a new stage in that area, right?
So this is the existing walkway as it is today. So the walkway along the Riverwalk should not need to be adjusted if we're installing a new stage.
So it would just be the existing one and then in that T area, because some of that will be new.
Yep.
Connected.
Yeah, so this area here would likely have to be one of those areas for minor adjustment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see the kind of the couple bit extension of the T to the right there is just so that we can make up some grade difference between where the east-west path is and to connect it to the existing. So yeah, you may be removing a small amount of that in the future for a stage. But you'd likely be removing a lot of the other existing paving around that current stage as well at that time. So those would be relatively minor site revisions if you were to build a similar stage in the future.
I have one question on the playground itself. Would be, and this is just me thinking, what is the bid that was to move that over? Because right now we just have to undo some bolts, remove a little bit of concrete and put it exactly on the other side of that walkway to open up that side of the yard. Yes, exactly where you're pointing there. And put some more concrete down, bolt the equipment down and throw down some chips. I mean, that can't be that expensive to, with a track out and everything else, to unbolt them, hoist them, remove the little bit of concrete that's holding them down, remove the chips and put some dirt and throw down some grass seed and put a brand new, you're gonna need new chips anyhow. That's part of your cost.
Not understanding the benefit of shifting the playground.
Because when you're down there, because we're down here every 13 nights, when you're down there, it is kind of a pinch point that kids could be on the opposite side. Even if you had some grass over there and you shrunk the size of the playground, I think it's oversized for the equipment anyhow. It can potentially be shrunk down by 2 wide, maybe by 8 wide or 8 in length. With the existing playground equipment, because you have 2 that are just like little things like this, and there's a large space in between them if you go down there and look. So I guess because I'm down there probably a lot and realize that that can be rather a noisier area than it should be. And for that, those venues, it would sure be nice to have it on the opposite side, which still keeps it right in proximity with the splash pad and everything else.
I would have some concerns about moving the playground because my kids play on that playground and it's not in the best condition. It's literally falling apart and I know Public Works has to go down there and re-weld it all the time.
We should get new equipment, if what you're saying is true.
It is true.
Yeah, see, cause that part I don't know.
I don't think it can be taken apart and put back together safely, just saying.
I mean, the existing stage is also not in great shape.
Yeah,
There we got unlimited money, we would get new playground and a new stage.
Regarding the playground too, I've heard both sides of it, that it gets noisy, but then I've also heard people say, I like to be able to sit and see where my kids are
Yeah.
at, so.
The
Could
point
you
is that,
describe,
yeah.
oh, I was gonna ask it when you get a chance, if you could describe the stormwater
I was gonna ask
facility.
about that too.
Yeah, Shannon, do you wanna tackle that one?
Sure. Yeah, this stormwater facility, essentially what you're looking at right now is sort of the revised site plan that we've worked on with Jenny and John, and the rest of our design team right now is mobilizing to kind of update plans to match this scheme. And so it's possible the stormwater facility will not be the size as shown because there's a lot less impervious surface paving in this scheme than there was in the previous one. I just don't yet have a new size to show you. So there's likely to be a facility here of some size, even if it's smaller than the one shown. The one that we have here, it's virtually the same as the one that was in the previous scheme that we bid out. We put it in this location. It was previously adjacent to the new playground, which is not in the design anymore. We're sort of hiding it by planting around it. So it'll essentially just be a landscape area. It's a backdrop behind a couple of benches that look out towards the Riverwalk. So as we get towards the final plans, there may be some shifting of the scale of that, the size of it. But the location is a pretty good one. As far as we can tell, the various drains that will be located throughout the site will storm drains will connect to this facility, and then they connect to the storm outfall that's at the overlook. So it's sort of strategically located, so it's in the right kind of flow of path for the stormwater infrastructure on the site.
And Shannon, what it actually looks like on the ground, if you could describe just the basics of
Sure.
maybe the elevation.
Yeah, it's not very deep. It's I can't remember exactly the depth, but it would be on the order of like 18 inches from the top edge of it to the bottom. It's planted, so it's likely that you won't even really notice it as separate from the rest of the planting area that surrounds it. It's likely going to have grasses, ornamental grasses in the bottom of it. But it'll have this function. So there'll be pipes leading to it, and then there'll be a drain pipe leading out of it so that water can flow through it during storm events. It provides water quality and sort of a slowing down of the water before it reaches the outfall. So it likely isn't going to stand out to a casual observer. Someone walking by the park is really going to see that area as well as the area on the other side of the pathway, south of that, south of the turnaround at Cowlitz. Likely they'll all kind of blend together visually. There'll just be a little basin essentially where the stormwater facility is, and some grasses planted in it.
What do you have in mind for that planting area on the left?
Right next to the roundabout.
Yeah, there's low shrubs in here. There's nothing very tall. There is a slope. Those paths are sloping down from the Cowlitz turnaround going down to the overlook. So yeah, it's essentially just a planted slope area. I don't have the plant list right in front of me, but we do have it in it's actually that area is very unlikely to change from the bid documents. So I know we've talked a lot before about views and view shed being important. There's no material in there that would block your view if you were up in the turnaround, say in a parked car or just walking on the sidewalk. There's nothing there that would obstruct your view. Pretty much everything is like 3 feet or shorter.
But I would advocate for very low maintenance. I don't think we have a very good track record of keeping up flower beds and things like that, so.
We have a volcano there.
Look at the one by the playground, yeah, I think as low maintenance as possible because it's gonna be an eyesore before long.
Brennan's our liaison to our Parks Commission, by the way.
Got it.
I would ask too, Jenny, if you could maybe attend the Parks Commission meeting next week.
I actually just sent an email
plant
to
list.
Melissa to be added to the agenda with this item. And the planning commission will also get this the day after. So we're just keeping everybody informed with the process. And Russ Hubbard, I know that you asked the question, why wouldn't we design the stage now? Did you want to tackle that question, or do you have other questions as it relates to the stage?
Money for that design.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna do a whole nother design. Why wouldn't you make that fit now and just dotted line and where it goes, and then you would design that, so you don't have to tear out what you're building now. It's just to put it in there where you had it on the plans and work around that, rather than
agree.
tearing something out.
Yeah, maybe Shannon, I think we touched on this a little bit, but there isn't much to have to be torn out if we were to use that existing.
Put a dotted line in there for reference, like
Yeah.
this is not where this is
Sure.
could be improved. Need to see, build something and tear it out, because it's just a waste. Again, and then also I had, you've got $2.3 million you're chasing in grants for this project. How much is this shortened diversion? How much grant money will go to this? All of it, or just?
So those grants are required. We're not chasing, those are required. We have contracts in place. And then they're for the Riverwalk. So they're entirely for this project.
So all that grant money can go in for this picture right here.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And they're all parks and recreation related grants, so that.
Still likely short though, money.
Likely what?
But still likely we're short money.
Well, that's my next question is. What kind of money do we have to keep those grants? What kind of money are we going to be coming up with? We have design costs.
Yep.
Is that part of 2.3?
Fortune.
Okay, so we have a portion that we have to come up with. I didn't know if it's gonna cost us $1 million to keep these grants in place. I mean, where's the value here?
Yeah, million's not that far off. So I kept that a little bit loose on the slides on purpose because we don't have bids in hand. That's what this remainder is, right? But that funding is coming from the Urban Renewal Agency and the Special Public Works Fund, which it's a loan program through the state.
So borrowed money to,
Match the grants. Yeah, these grants require a city contribution. And so that's in the form of our system development charges for parks and in the form of urban renewal funding.
I was gonna say, we used our SCCs also.
no,
Gloria, can you speak a little bit on that? I mean, does the urban renewal pay for the special works funding loan program that we would go through?
That is the plan, yes.
Okay, because I know you went through this in Independence, and that's why I wanted to ask. You've dealt with this probably, I mean, close to the exact same project. I mean, Riverwalk and.
Very similar, yes.
Yeah, so.
Yes, so the loan that we have in place right now is a drawdown loan, so we spend the money first and then we get reimbursed for that from the loan. And then, once the project's complete, we'll close on the loan. And then we'll have an amortization of debt service, and the urban renewal will pay the debt service on the project.
Besides from the SCC, so. That's separate.
Yes, it's a separate contribution, yes.
So what happens if we move forward with this and we go out for bid and it's still above what we have? What are we gonna cut next?
Yeah, that's a great question. I hope that doesn't happen. Everything tells us it won't because we've gone out to bid, we have numbers in hand.
You still said though that you were thinking though that we're still gonna be shy. So we're still gonna have to figure out, be creative about coming up with money to cover what you're thinking we're missing, right?
Sure. Shy in that the Urban Renewal Agency would cover whatever it takes to get this built.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not,
I see what you're
there's no missing money, it's just that the remainder is coming from the agency. You know, we're trying to limit how much city contribution goes towards this project as much as possible.
your architects and engineers, they come up with a budget for you, budget price for the completed construction cost, because you're paying them to come up with a budget. And they say.
Cost estimate, yeah.
Cost estimate, so they really blew it last time.
Yeah, and actually Shannon was prepared to talk on that just a little bit about why, you know, between September 2023 and January, when our estimate was done, why was it so wildly off? And I don't know if you want to speak to that now, Shannon.
Sure, yeah, we were very surprised, as I'm sure everyone in this room was. And we took all the information that we got. So I think there maybe were 8 or 9 plan holders. So in other words, the contractors who were interested in bidding on the project, we ultimately got 3 bids. And we had pretty fine grade information from them about the costs that they were using to estimate the project. And so we took those back and we analyzed them. We revisited that with our cost estimator who had provided the numbers throughout every phase of the project. And our cost estimator, you know, was like, these are early pandemic numbers. These are very high numbers. They are across the board. There was no one portion of the design that was off. It was universally, everything was inflated above where we anticipated it to be. So that was reflective of a new market condition, which was that the contractors were very busy in the late summer last year, and we're not looking for competitive pricing. And we're not, you know, we not only got fewer bidders than we were anticipating based on the interest we had when we advertised, but also all of the bidders came in very high. There's labor shortages that you can look at in some sectors that are keeping some of those costs high. Electrical is one of them that's just consistently coming in extremely high due to labor shortages. That probably affects a few other areas of the design. And St. Helens would not be the only community that's experiencing this tough decision right now. We are working across the Portland metro area on a number of projects and finding very similar condition where design, cost estimating, and construction pricing are just not lining up right now. Buildings are getting shorter, people are pulling things out of projects because the construction market right now is just, you know, surprising everyone with how much higher it is. I think the things that we're taking out of the project, I would say overall, this is a much simpler site design project than what we had previously. We have taken a lot of custom structure, architectural glulam beams and steel and wood out of the project, and membrane roofs and things that are kind of very specific to building structures. So in terms of the trades and the sub-consultants involved in the work that we have remaining in this project now, I would expect us to be more in line with the anticipated budget. We did use all the information that we had to try to estimate how much we were saving, you know, using the bid numbers that we had from the fall rather than the unit cost that we had been using previously in design. So hopefully those are more representative of the market conditions. So we think that we're in the right ballpark now with the design that we have. But yeah, this will remain to be seen. We'll have to see where the bidders come in this time.
I just have one final just concern or thought about it, which is that I wish that I would have, or someone, you know, so the council would have been included a little bit more on this about what we were going to take out and what we were going to keep. Because I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a brand new walkway and benches, and we're going to have a playground that's unsafe and no stage, which are the two main essential points of that park. That's just my opinion about it, and it's really unfortunate.
I'm glad you pointed this out. I thought and reflected on what our priorities are. I mean, I remember in 2020, during the pandemic, writing those 2 OPRD grants that you see here and being so excited about this Riverwalk opportunity. I mean, it was the highest priority at the time to get the Riverwalk funded. And looking back on it, you know, yeah, what if I could have spent my time writing a grant for a stage in 2020, maybe that would have been a better decision, but we're stuck with these contracts to build a Riverwalk now. We can't change those contracts. I commiserate that. Yeah.
And Jenny, I don't know if this was made clear previously to the council, but the funds you have from OPRD actually weren't able to be used for the stage construction. We were separating the stage out because it wasn't covered by the grant.
That's right. Yep, those grants were specific to the walkway along the river. Yeah.
So in the total pool of money being used on the project, we specifically were separating out stage and the playground construction because they weren't in the grant. The grant was being used for the Riverwalk portion, and then the rest of the monies that made up the total budget were being used for those other park improvements.
Are there aspects of this that could be done in-house? You know, maybe park was created, it was our parks department that did it. Is there things that our parks department could be doing or things that Public Works could be contributing that would bring the cost down?
Yeah, it's a good question, and one we thought about with demolition in particular, maybe doing in-kind demolition. Shannon, I don't know, we sort of talked around that. At this point, there isn't a whole lot of demo work. More of it's really fine-tuned excavation along the riverbank, which is kind of a sensitive area.
Yeah, I think back in, sorry.
Go ahead, Shannon.
It was prevailing wage, and she said yes.
I remember having a conversation with the Public Works group. I think it was back between 60 and 90% design, just talking about some like what in-kind work could mean to the project at the time. And it's true, we didn't have build like design and build items as part of that. It was mostly in the early stages of work, demolition. And given what it was, you know, there was maybe some opportunity, but not a lot of cost savings to be found in that. So we ended up pursuing just the contractor providing all of the services. I think you're right, Jenny, that what we have in the project now, the work that's being done along the riverbank, the excavation, the detail of the walls that are gonna be constructed there, it's pretty skilled work that we would anticipate a contractor needing to do to provide those MSE walls.
Design stage are you on now?
Did you hear that, Shannon?
I didn't.
Okay.
What design stage are you at now?
We're reworking the bid documents. So we were at 100% design previously when we went out to bid, and we're redoing that 100% package again. We'll resubmit for permit, and we will resubmit for bidding.
So details and sections are all done, so they know you can get a really accurate bid on everything.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a zero design effort to redesign, but it was pretty light because we were at a pretty advanced stage of design. And like I said at the beginning, a lot of the Riverwalk has not changed. The walls have not changed, the railings have not changed. We're keeping as much of that exactly the same as possible. That saves on redesign fees. And like I said before, we've looked at it with the bid pricing that we got. We think that we can achieve those elements within the budget. That's what we're anticipating being able to do. So yeah, we're essentially redesigning the portions of the project that we're connecting to the new playground, connecting to the new stage, and you know, keeping more of your existing infrastructure in that upland area in place.
Any questions?
To hit on next steps, as far as timeline goes, like what you can expect, we're hoping to have CDs done by the end of January and bid this in early February. So we would be bidding early February, with bids closing, end of February, early March. And hopefully contracting, for March with a start date in April.
I have just a general comment about the project funding. We use the terms, the city paying for it, the urban renewal agencies paying for it, and then they can walk back and forth. And the urban renewal agency, although it is the council acting as agency board members, there are two separate entities. And as we go through later in January with our budget orientation on the regular budget, is in February, we're going to meet the urban renewal agency budget, have a better understanding of roles and responsibilities, and there's documents, governmental agreements go back and forth between these to see who's paying for what, and but I think it'll become a lot more clear how the money flows at least.
Yes.
How long do you expect the project to take?
1 year.
So during the summertime, we're gonna have some interesting shuffling around to do for great activities down there.
I think we already anticipate that because of streets and utilities being under construction on Strand and Cowlitz during that time as well.
Well, now right in the heart of the park too, so we're gonna have to shift gears.
Well, we kind of do that. I mean, that's what we were told, was kind of just get in, get it done and get back out,
Rather than staggering the streets project and then later doing the parks project.
Personally, I'm just gonna speak just as a citizen that I think this is a very nice plan because of the concrete that's involved. I don't think you should ever go with an asphalt boardwalk. Concrete lasts for a long time, long time, and I think it sets a precedent that will actually, where it stops, and phase 2 could be added even into future development. With the rest of the waterfront. I think it's vitally important though that this part get done to show that it started. So the only thing I would ask is that you get from the Parks Commission that you ask questions about the playground on the opposite side. Maybe some new playground equipment. You know we can't afford it. Still need to know this because and I think the views would be close enough to still see on the opposite side. So I would like to have you kind of consider that. Because it just opens up that much more park area. And that's where the playground was gonna go in the first place. That's why I'm asking for that.
The splash pad will still be on the other side,
It would be that little tiny concrete pad right there.
right? That was,
Basically, it'd be right Cause it's right there. It's that shaded right there, and I think it can even be shrunk up with what equipment we have there. Right now.
City can continue to write grants for stages and playground equipment and things of that nature as well.
Yeah, but I
I
just,
think it's gonna be important to educate the public on that. Just like I had asked or said what I said, and then you said, I think we're gonna ask that. Why do we have a brand new walkway when the playground's falling apart? Sure. So I think we need to find some way to educate people on that.
You look at McCormick Park's a good example of that. It's a $300-some-thousand project. A lot of it grant funded.
well, literally, I mean, I do this type of work and you can go rent a backhoe from Don's Rental for a week for $2,000. You can get the dirt in there. Tommy Fisher can haul to you for $250 a truckload. And then you can get the cedar chips from Beaver Bark. Well, they have to be certified, so you have to get them from Longview. So they're gonna cost a little bit more, but there's literally not a lot of cost there. 3 yards of concrete, because that's the minimum you have for a truck to come. And because I don't wanna mix it. You know?
Prevailing wage.
No, I'm just talking
Well,
about.
we did it.
Us to do it, us to do it.
Yeah, well,
But I'm just, talking outside my head because. I do this work. This is what I've been doing this since. For since 2000.
leads me to a comment. I think Parks Commission needs to enter into this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And put a number on yearly maintenance. And that has to be considered in there. So
Great.
if there's a weed down here, we know who to point the finger at, say, well, you put money in for this beautiful lawn. Let's keep it that way. And so
Okay,
let's build it and let it go.
Hey Russ, how would you feel about this? Cause I mentioned this prior to you and you're new. Would be the development that comes in down here, put CCNRs on the whole waterfront for them to take care of this privately.
No, you're the city. You've got to do something here. You've got to provide this walkway or whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah, but for the maintenance piece of it is what I'm trying to say. CCNRs for the rest of the waterfront, cause their buildings are gonna be in front of that.
You know,
You wouldn't recommend that?
not as a developer, no way. They're paying hot property taxes and system development charges for this stuff, and then you're gonna hit them to maintain the whole thing?
Yeah.
No. Contractor expects to pay for things, do improvements as he's there, but it's handed over to the city to maintain the city. That's, you don't, I mean, that's what you were trying to do with that last developer. You thought he would come in and build everything for you and make it easy, and they're not gonna do that. It's their property of that. If you're gonna have CCNRs, you need to sell them right up to the river. My view.
Just go, private does a lot better than public and cheaper.
They shouldn't.
Like I said, I used to work for Tufel. I worked at Nike's. I worked for competitor with Northwest Landscape. NLS now is what they're called, but.
City can subcontract certain areas or something too, if that's cheaper. But don't put everything, you won't, trouble is you're trying to develop this area.
Absolutely.
And if you're scaring everybody off with CCNRs and all sorts of regulations and things that are just sort of, just tips them, especially with the economy getting questionable about building more of this stuff. What you're doing is you're scaring them off.
Just trying to look at
And you
ways
want
to manage a
bring
budget.
people- You wanna bring people in, developers. They've got to see some virtue here to build.
And so we got 13 parks and Brandon's right. It's hard to keep up on right now.
And at a minimum, we're already talking with
It's hard to keep up.
Buck about irrigation and making sure that they get what they need. There's been a problem with irrigation in the park, and so we wanna make sure that we're planning for irrigation. That in a way that we can conserve what's there, but make sure we're getting any areas that need fixed as part of this project. At a minimum, but yeah, I think we can. Please talk on.
That's way down the road, but I was just.
Down the road is something that's gonna cost you and won't get done if you don't put an amount in for that for parks to do, or subcontract out to some company.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about the other discussion piece of the CCNRs and stuff like that.
I just have one more comment. If we do look at shifting the playground, I wouldn't feel comfortable unless we had some inside information about how to move the playground and if we can do that without it causing, complete damage to moving it. Because I think it's in pretty rough condition. So I just want you to know that I'm thinking ahead that if that does come back to us at all, that's something I'm gonna wanna know about before I would be okay with shifting it out. Okay.
Just an idea.
And the other option is gravel pack. They're building like crazy down there.
We could do wood.
Have you been down to Kalama?
No, I was just thinking of boardwalk.
It's off the, off McMinimum's all the way down to the amphitheater is not, it's concrete. I've been there, I've taken my boat there, because specifically of that reason, because it's nice. And that's what we need to make this destination, is a nice destination that people want to visit on their yachts. Not a gravel pathway.
We did spend a
That's a great experience.
a day in Tlamo touring with their director, and it's been with the project since like 40 years in the beginning.
He started as a maintenance worker, the guy that's been managing all the projects in
Yeah.
Paloma. It's an incredible story. Yeah.
It's exciting stuff to be able to just talk about this.
Yeah.
Everybody got their own ideas. I love it. I love it. So, any other questions? All right, Shannon, thank you very much. Good to see you.
See you too, thank you.
Okay, so let's go on to our building division semi-annual report. Michael DeRosa, building official. How you doing?
Good afternoon, council, happy new year to you guys. Yeah, I'm here to give you guys just a report from reporting period July to December of this year. And if you can go to the next slide. I'm sorry, the visuals are a little bit small. But all this information is in your guys' packet, so you can review it a little closer if you need to. So yeah, in this period, we did 165 plan reviews, performed approximately 1,100 inspections. And we, you can go to the next slide, and we issued 175 permits in that time period. And this is the first period in a while that we've been without our inspector. And so just kind of want to report a little bit on that. We're kind of at our brim as far as workload goes, plan reviews, permitting and everything coming in. I'm very grateful for Heidi and Christina, who keep me organized with what needs to be in front of me at the time, and also helps organize all the other processes that go on. But we are at our brim with 2.4 employees, which is what our building department is made up of. We're able to maintain it. We have IGAs, which I'll go into here in just a second, that help us maintain our levels of service, but much more increase in the workload, and we're going to exhaust those IGAs, which happened in the past. And that, of course, upsets our stakeholders when services really start dropping. So I'm just keeping my finger on the pulse of that as it's going on.
Appreciate that.
So intergovernment agreements, we have two of them that we run with. One's with Columbia County and one with Columbia City. We provide permitting services for Columbia City. In this reporting period, we had 32 permits issued and 11,341 invoice revenues. And for Columbia County, it's a reciprocating, sorry, there's no slide for this, you can stay right. It's a reciprocating IGA that allows us to render services by request from either party. It's primarily me that requests from them. And this is where if I have a training or am sick for a day or need a day off, this is where I'll exercise that. And we've had 59 inspections, 2 plan reviews, and with total expenditure of $46.60 for that time period. Now you can go to the next slide. All right. So Building Codes Division, which is a state agency, that's BCD, they adopt statewide code. Building codes that we administer within the city, and they give us the authority to do that. And so I'll just kind of touch on some of the updates from BCD. We did adopt a new 2023 Oregon Residential Specialty Code, which will become completely enforceable April 1st. Just a couple of items kind of high level items that are in those updates. They've added provisions now for shipping containers to be used as homes. Whereas before they were just an alternative method that would have to be approved on an individual basis with each building department. They've thrown all the solar panel provisions into the code, which is nice because it used to be in the building code or the commercial building code, and it just kind of consolidates everything. Probably the biggest thing on the residential code that's coming up is they are going to start moving to an energy rating index, ERI compliance. And this is done in other states already. It's been around since about 2006. It is, there's all kinds of opinions about what it does. But the idea is, in general, the state has set a number that every house will have to meet, which is 55. On that index, and you have to either get 55, between 0 and 55 on your rating. But it does put the options to the contractors to be able to be flexible in how they meet that requirement, instead of having just prescriptive methods that tell them exactly how to do it. They have options of what they want to put in the building, trade-off kind of system for them to meet the energy rating. And then they put in provisions for something we haven't seen in St. Helens at all, but I would look forward to it, is 3D printed homes, which I don't know if anybody has seen any of that, but it is a fun Google search if you ever want to just check out how they're doing 3D printed homes.
He's building it up.
Yeah.
He's making circles.
We also had an update in the plumbing code. The biggest one I'll share with you is just again with keeping in step with the governor's energy requirements, the flow rates. Usage rates have been reduced for shower heads and for toilets. Let's see, you can go to the next slide. I hope this is the last time I have to talk to you guys about this one. This is the specialized plumbing inspector. The class is completed. At least a completion test to complete the class was taken and a certificate given out for that. And I did just receive notice yesterday that I should be receiving notice next week about sitting for the SPI test so that we can finally get that certification. And again, that just kind of continues to move us away from reliance on other agencies to perform those inspections for us.
Good job, Michael.
So again, hope that's the last time we got to do that one. And then no slide for this, sorry. One I did want to bring up, just because it has been a topic for the council and for our planning commission, which is the psilocybin regulations that have been going on. I included a technical bulletin that BCD has put out on the matter. Really not a lot of discussion about it. I'm happy to answer any questions, of course, but not really a lot of discussion. It just provides guidance on how to interpret, how to apply the building codes as those facilities get approved for use in certain locations. And just to give a summary of it, they're treating them like you would any kind of place where you would consume any other, like a bar, a nightclub, a restaurant. It's an A2 occupancy when it's over 50 people, B occupancy when it's under 50. And that's about as simple as it gets for us. And so as they get approved, we'll be able to have guidance to be able to take those building permits and move them through the building codes. So, and I can go to some of the projects going on around the city. And there are quite a few of them right now. So this is the high school renovation. The addition, which includes the cafeteria and science rooms, they've got finishes being applied, and there's a lot of exterior site improvements being done. You can see the one photo of the entryway there. Next slide. This is the Broadleaf Apartments. Just a few of the mechanical systems that they're starting to get completed out there. We've granted occupancy for 10 of the 11 buildings, 9 of which are residential. The last building is that building is the biggest building out there right up against Gable Road. And one picture I just want to kind of show, sorry, I'm kind of nerding a little bit on this. The second photo in from the left, it looks like a bunch of heat pumps all kind of linked together. And I wanted to point that out because that's actually the hot water heater. The water heater for the whole building, 84 units will be heated by those units right there. And it's a heat pump system. And it's not your traditional water heating systems that you see out there. And so I just kind of wanted to point those out. Those are new technologies that we're seeing out in the field.
So all the buildings, that one?
No, that just serves the 84 units in building A. Yeah, and there's the other part of that photo, which I didn't quite get captured in this next photo over, is the two 500-gallon holding tanks that hold all that water in order for the occupants to use it at their peak demand times. So it's got 1,000 gallons of water on standby for use. Just an interesting way of that they come up with doing it. Yeah.
How tall would you say those units are about?
They're less than 36 inches tall, less than 3 feet.
Amazing. That's for 84 units.
My understanding is each unit can produce 0.3 gallons of hot water a minute.
Wow. That's impressive.
Excellent. Yeah, John Gum School. This is a renovation project that's going on just up the street from us. Interior demolition for the most part is completed. Their framing is significantly complete on all levels, and they're now working through getting all the plumbing, mechanical, and electrical trade work done. Next slide, Crooked Creek. Just a small update on that since last time we talked about them. They finished the bar section, which is just on the main level. The kitchen is still under remodel and the upper level is still under remodel, but they were able to get a partial occupancy in order to open the bar and start functioning, which they're currently doing. Next slide.
Beautiful.
I can turn this one over to you, Russ, if you want.
You got to pass us off.
Anyway, this is 12th Street Apartments, Russ's project. The framing has all been approved. Interior finishes are being applied. It's actually been a while since I've been out there, but the interior finishes are being applied and site work is being completed. And next slide.
Very nice studios, ADA studios on the bottom. Couple of some on top, a commercial building. It's gonna be really nice. I had a tour of it the other day. Thank you for that, Russ.
Burger King. Burger King is completed. They are currently operating under a temporary occupancy just for a few minor issues that they're completing on the site. A handrail system that needs to be installed on a ramp. And I'm not sure if they've met all the planning requirements, but just a couple of things that need to be completed out there, but they are currently operating. Next slide, Columbia Hills Retirement. The building is dried in, completed, as far as the framing, trade work is completed, and they've received some approvals to start moving forward with interior finishes.
What are they doing outside there? The contractors.
The trenching.
Yeah.
So part of this, so this was all started from the fire that occurred at this facility. Part of the requirements, once that facility went through that fire, was to put in a fire sprinkler system. So what you're seeing is them trenching a line to feed that fire sprinkler system. Next photo, Sand Island. I want to keep this on here because it's a public project that I've been out on several times, but it's not really I've been out there once since the last time we met, which rendered an inspection that they needed to take care of some revisions on their plans, and so they're working through that process now. So I haven't seen a whole lot of activity out there this time, but just want to keep it going for you guys so that we can be up to date each time we meet. This one is on here now, American Mart, up on 18th. This one went through a lot of, it took a while for the permit to get issued on this one. But they are going full steam ahead now. They've made some structural alterations. The two exterior photos that you see there, they aren't just to show you which building we're talking about. Those are going to drastically change over the next few months. You're going to see new openings pop up in those storefronts. And on all three sides, actually, you're going to see new openings. Open up. New storefront openings, including a tenant space where the original arcade game path opening was. That's going to be a new tenant space with another smaller one to the west side of it. Yep. And then the photos that you're seeing of the interior are actually the back half of the building, which is where American Mart will be located. So they'll actually be facing the parking lot in the back.
Oh,
American Mart's entrance.
Yeah, front, it'll be open to buddy too.
Right now, the construction is just gonna leave it a vanilla shell, just ready for a tenant to come in and make a lease and build out their own space.
This is a silly question. Is American Mart like a mini mart?
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
I remember it being some type of a convenience store. So big in there.
It's a larger size convenience store for sure. See, so structure, oh yeah, that one's on fast lube and oil.
Oh, no, I'm just. Never removal.
So fast lube and oil, this is just two properties down north from the Burger King site, and they have just completed their framing. They're moving in with all their plumbing, electrical, and mechanical work. And they should be actually working on I was actually supposed to be out there this afternoon, and I had to call him and let him know I won't be out until after this. So he may be approved for finishes after today's visit. And then just a couple of photos of residential sites that are going on. We've got Elk Ridge Estates that are going on. That's the bottom. Sorry, I didn't put these in very good order. The top two are just a couple of remodels. The upper right-hand one is 6th Street, South 6th Street duplexes. The lower left-hand one is Elk Ridge. That next one over in the middle there, that is on South 2nd Street, just up here. And the last one on the right is also from Elk Ridge. And outside of that, we'll be keeping up with daily activities for the next 6 months or for the next time period. We've got some code update classes I've got some code update classes to keep up with as these code updates have come out. And whereas time allows, I've been trying to work on getting the fire and floating code sections of our municipal code updated. Any questions?
What about Dairy Queen?
Dairy Queen has been approved from land use. And I believe that timeline on that is going. They have not submitted for building permits yet. And so
You're approved for land use.
They are.
Sure. Well, there are a number of things that can happen between land use and building permit submittal, on their end. Right. But we haven't heard from them. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
part of the Burger King, so the work that's being done on the Burger King does involve part of the Dairy Queen site in that they share some access easements and some utility easements. So you might see some activity going on that site, but currently the only activity would be just serving the Burger King.
Mr. Michael?
Busy.
It seemed to be more streamlined than it was a year ago.
The report?
Your work.
Oh,
Deployment. You still, you changed the computer at one point in time and the state, I don't call for inspection, but the superintendent does, so. Is that going better that when we calls into the state of Oregon that?
So our software system that we use is the State Inspections Excella program, and there seems to be always something that we're having to contend with.
It seemed to be frustrating at times.
There are times where it's frustrating, but we do, if we do let people know that if they're having any kind of issues with, getting inspections in, or if the system is down in any way, because again, we don't control that. That's all run by the state.
Yeah.
They have my number. I make it very available to them. They have my email. They can request, if they're having issues, they can request directly from us through messaging. They can get a hold of Heidi, Christina. We make ourselves available so that if there are issues or technology breaks down, which we've kind of got those ways on the back end to kind of help and continue services.
Yeah, field communications.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, good job on presentation. Keep us posted on the pulse of what activity you have going on. And also, when you say we, you should say me. I almost got my certification from that's what you mean.
Well, I do mean we, in fact that it is, again, Heidi and Christina helped keep me. I couldn't even get that certification without them, to be honest with you, because they keep me organized and help me support me in what we try to do out there.
So you continue to get certifications that benefit the city. The council know that as well. Thank you.
All right, you guys have a good afternoon.
Okay, discussion regarding police staffing. Okay, this has been we've been working on this for a little while now. I know that we last met with the union, and had a little bit of a discussion on this. And the lieutenant was gonna talk about some scheduling for that part of it. But now there's more to it than just that.
I know Chief Greenway met with Sheriff Pixley last week, and they had a good conversation about scheduling and things of that nature, so. Covered. Had to run out, I was gonna need that report.
Yeah.
Something that's been on the agenda is just kind of a placeholder to. Because that's important. We need to
Yeah.
get- We're
Burnout guys are on burnout, you know, we figured this out. Yeah.
Figure this out.
So. We probably should just schedule a meeting with them again, I mean, with the. Lieutenant, do the scheduling and the union vote. That right, and yes, and. And see about, talking about a hybrid schedule, and all they, they said that. Right now, I just wanna know that there's some hope in sight for the retirees coming up, you know, they know it's coming, they wanna see some. And sooner than later.
One of the pieces of the puzzle with that is with the collective bargaining unit, the St. Helens Police Association. Our ability to call officers back is pretty limited. And we'd like to get some language in the contract to do that, so I've reached out to our councils to try to have that conversation between the association and the city to kind of queue us up for that authority.
What do you mean call?
For overtime things, it's voluntary. There's some language in the agreement that says you shall come back and work.
And you're looking at requiring that?
It used to be there.
That is what it would take to get.
This is interesting, because we're talking about.
That's what well, when they have more capacity, assuming we have more officers and things, if we need people to come out to go for, you know, events and parades, we can mandate they come back to work.
So I know it sounds bad, Jessica, the way you.
That's why I
But-
didn't mean to, just that's what I'm hearing it,
No,
so.
but right now, if we do have a big event, we've only got 3 officers. That we can rely on without having any language in there.
I just wonder. if
To
it's
say,
the right
no,
time to do
we
that.
need 8 officers. Because we know this is coming. Any type of, anything that's coming our way. They do not have to have more than 3 officers on duty. The way the language reads right now. Now. For public safety, if there's a protest. There's a Halloween Town event going on, there's, I don't know, somebody decided they were gonna. Want to sponsor this big huge event, in St. Helens, beyond what we do. Want a concert here. We cannot mandate but 3 officers to that. Right now, chief does not have any leverage to say, I need you guys here and we need to meet and prepare for this to happen.
I just don't know if right now is the right time for that, in my opinion, looking at the situation and fresh eyes on it, you know?
Well, I'm not an officer, you're not an officer, that's what. we're
I know,
talking
but
about.
these guys are coming in here telling us that they're overworked and we're telling them we're gonna make you work. It doesn't sound good, I'm just saying, I'm calling it like I see it.
Appreciate that, but it's part of the recipe for getting them the relief that they need, that they can be called back as needed.
I just don't know if that's the right way to do it.
I don't know a lot of the specifics, but the last I heard is that they're willing to.
Yeah.
Sit down and have that conversation, so it's not like they were against it, so they
Right.
just.
They've been asking us.
Well, they've also been asking us to talk about eliminating 24-hour coverage for a while. Have we talked about that? With the idea that we now have county,
That is
that could also relieve some of the duty.
definitely on the table.
Alright, not trying to press, I'm just trying to bring up things that I know I wanna hear about. Ideas that I think also need to be presented.
Where are we at on hiring additional officers?
Are. Right now, we don't have. Sure. Yeah, we don't have a budget for it right now. That we started the budget this year with a $500,000 deficit, took our reserves down from 20% to 15%. And there's gonna have to be some decisions made about how we're gonna maintain our levels of service. And it's gonna be a really tough budget year. So they'll all have to lose budget compared to, there's gonna be a lot of decisions to make. And later on in my report here, I was gonna talk about that, just specifically about the budget input staff needs to help get moving with the proposed budget. Like,
Well, I would like to, maybe in a look at other revenues to maybe even between now and then get the hiring process going now. That's ways out, Joe, at least for 1 or 2 officers. What that might look like or might not look like with our financial director. With what we have currently right now. Just to see, I mean, we got what, a year or less that they're ready to retire. Can't wait. Budget process is down a ways and we have some revenues.
January and then not till like April.
So I think that's something that we
That's,
really need
A
to,
long time.
we need to do a special meeting on it for us and chief and to sit down and not do it for public comment, just to throw around the ideas and have some direction that we can bring it to the public. For all of us,
that's exactly
not
what,
just me and Brandon and them.
that's exactly what we're looking for here is we have,
But we're just stealing your thunder.
Gloria and I have been talking internally, what are we gonna do with the proposed budget? We have one budget that has the construction of the police project in it and how it impacts the general fund, and one without it. And we run both of these budget scenarios and look at the can we even afford it with the closure of Cascades and the lease. What was paying for the debt service, the $750,000 annual debt service was a combination of the $10 fee, which is still almost 50,000 short. Was Cascades lease payments was identified as that source of revenue, which is 300,000 a year, which is now zero. That goes through our budget and we hear you about the wave of retirements coming, having the officers hired up and ready to go, but we also need to be able to afford it. And, we met with the police. They're saying, we want more people. Then given the choice, would you rather have the building or more officers? They say hands down, more officers. So we said, okay, so what does that look like if we defer construction of the police station to a future time when we can better afford it? Maybe even sometime in the future, put it on the ballot. The building itself is entirely lost. It's a pretty good building. It could be located in other places around the city if it couldn't be built at the current location. Some driving factors around that are, well, Jenny and I this morning kind of talked about what it means. The LUBA anticipate up to a year delay in the project. That's going to have an inflationary impact of close to $1 million. That just makes it that much less affordable.
Attorney's fees.
The attorney fees, whether it's built where it's at, whether it's in a new location, there's going to be redesign fees, land acquisition fees. Slide up.
You're saying though, even if we trade the building for the police, it's not enough.
Correct.
All right, I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just trying to be very clear because Mark is asking that question and in my head, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Even if we do that, it's not enough.
If we can take the $10 monthly fee and make some, tweaks to the code to be able to use it for that, to use it to pay for officers, that would help a lot.
Basically, it's been that payment has been pretty much going to the loan, right? The loan.
Paying debt service on something that doesn't exist. Yes.
So all this money we've been generating off of the utility fees to pay a loan.
In a design on a loan that started collecting interest because. So let me ask you this. If we were to, is it possible, and I thought we had discussed this a little bit, take that debt and roll it into the urban renewal and use it for projects.
So we've met with our bond funders and rather than paying interest on borrowed money, we could actually put that money to work into projects that are currently under construction, whether that's an urban renewal agency project, whether it's a utility project, sewer like that. There would be some intergovernmental agreements flowing around to make that work, but it would get the money spent in use. Sitting in the account earning interest, and it's earning interest, but at a certain point, that interest is going to have to be returned to the investors if it doesn't get spent in the bonds. So it's not like we can wait forever with that either. So.
The short answer is yes.
Yes.
But why would we do that?
Because it will be paying interest on money and not utilize it for a project where the urban renewal says, okay, I can use that money for this project and this project. Maybe not all, but it probably could soak up a lot of it. And I'm going to take on that debt service to pay for these projects. And it's actually at a really good rate it's a fairly decent rate. That's one thing, the only thing we have going for us is it was a fairly decent rate on that bond. And that's why we're able to make money, like John's saying, on interest rates right now. But we can't do that because you just can't do that.
We can't do what?
You can't just continue to keep it, trying to make the interest off that money.
No, we will eventually have to give that back
Yes, if we don't use it.
in some way, shape or form.
Yeah.
What's that timeline?
We have until September 2024 to substantially use up those bond proceeds.
I know we have like some sewer projects within our urban renewal up on 7th Street, the 3 major sewer projects, one of them is within our urban renewal.
There's also the undergrounding project and the rest of the Riverwalk.
And then if we did that, if we funded those projects with this money, how would we get the money back for the police?
Well, in 2 years from now, if we said, okay, that worked. We got 3 officers, we had that rollover retirement, we budgeted 1 in between, so we got 22 officers now, or 21, whatever it is. You could just take that back into the water for a brand new loan on a police station. Or put it out to vote.
And you could immediately fund 3 new police officers with the $10 fee,
Right now.
$10 a month fee. So you're giving the police what they're advocating for.
So we're just essentially putting it on hold for 2 years, but rewording instead of the police station on the water bill, police.
Services.
Yeah, police services.
But they're not asking for 3 officers. They were asking for 3 officers last year.
Well, we gotta also be
So-
practical. I mean.
Well, I know, I'm just being honest.
not-
We're actually not really helping them much.
Yeah, I mean. I was gonna go, the old staffings, if you go back to 08 staffing levels and you look, you'll see where everybody was at then.
I know how you feel about that, but I disagree, and I think that times are different now, and it's been a long time since we've done a staffing report. Me and you can go toe to toe about this forever,
Well, the
but
numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Go back to 08.
but we don't have a current staffing report, so what numbers are you talking about?
I'm talking about going back to 08 numbers.
08?
If you wanna
I
see,
have a
if you
kid
wanna,
that old.
if you wanna
She's
see,
in high school.
I'm not, if you're not willing to listen. And
Well, I
I'm
told
trying to give
you,
you some
go back and
I'm
forth.
trying to give you some of my advice, and I mean, realistically, I know policing is very vitally important to this community, but. We also we have other services. I wanna have clean drinking water. I also wanna have a library that I can walk into and check something out. I wanna have decent looking parks. I wanna make sure my poo, when I go, goes down and goes out and is done sanitarily. I also want my streets to not have a bunch of potholes in them. And I want safe streets. And I want good schools. And I want a nice boardwalk. And.
Those things are all being funded though. Just fine. They are. Do you hear Public Works in here
So-
asking for,
Okay, so
they're not.
if you look at it, Show me, and I'm not trying to get into a big argument, but show me in our budget where any other department since I came here, and I'm only speaking for myself, has went up 140%. One that's even maybe got half of that. 80%. Show me one.
Well, I don't know the numbers
Or
exactly, but
70%.
I know that
70%, I guarantee
we
it's not
have
there.
expanded positions in public works
We
because
went
I've seen them.
2.4 to 5.6 million since.
And this isn't a
2016.
battle between police and public works. They are both important.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're saying that you're saying that's the only need we have, and it's not. That's what I'm trying to say. You're not hearing me. We have a whole city to run. And again, I understand retirements and the burnout, what's going on. But I also know that numbers do not lie. And when we had 2.4 million in 2016, and we have 5.6 million in 2023, 2024, that's a lot of money. That's a 140% increase. We have more than double what was allocated. Almost $5 million. Almost by $3 million. It was 2.4, it's almost $3 million difference. Or it is a little bit more. 2.4, 5.6 is 3.2 million. And that's all I'm trying to say, is we can't keep, you're talking about adding up ton of positions, and I say we need to look at the budget, a collaborative effort, and that's what we talked about.
I just think that if we keep putting Band-Aids on this problem, it's never going to end. That's ever since I've been on this council, it's been a problem, and it's been something that they've been
But
talking about.
obviously throwing money at it's not working either. 140% is not working. So we need to look at it collaboratively and look at it right.
So last year, they asked for more positions.
Our budget was more than the counties. Not now, but it was way more than the counties. Like by $2 million. And I couldn't get those exact numbers, but I had them back in 2006, about 2018. And we were over $1 million. At that point in time, we were 3.6 million, 18 or 19, and they were at 2.6. That included Marine service.
Have
The
you,
Marine Department.
have you sat down with the police and went over their budget? Because I feel
Well,
like
that's what I'm
it puts them in a bad light that like somebody is misappropriating their budget. They're getting all this money, but they can't seem to,
Jessica.
well, I'm just
I know,
saying.
but didn't we just say we need to sit down collaboratively? I'm not trying to argue.
Well,
with
I don't
you.
know why you haven't done that yet. It's just, you know.
I just recommended that we need to do this sooner
Talked
than
about
later.
that point though, for a long time. I don't know why you haven't talked to the police and figured it out. That's
You
just
did,
my-
Brennan, I mean, you and I haven't
You
had a
broke down
lot,
the budget with them?
haven't had a lot of interaction with the chief because he's been out on leave. And that's not my fault, and he oversees the budget. I have talked to Lieutenant Hogue, myself and Counselor Sundin, and have talked to Lieutenant Hogue and the union reps. And they're willing to look at scheduling to see if they can do some cost savings there, because that's his part of the budget. And they're obligated to either 8-hour, 10 hours, or 12-hour shifts. 12-hour shifts didn't sound very appealing to them. 8 hours is great, but 8 hours actually are 10 hours, they're 10-hour shifts is what they're doing. So they're doing 10-hour shifts, 3 10-hour shifts a day, which I'm like, there's 12 hours of overlap there. That makes 0 sense when you have 3 officers per shift. And you're doing 10, but you're actually working 8 because they need some time to do the reporting. I'm just trying to sit down and figure this out.
Some of the things that don't make sense to us make sense to them, so.
Yeah.
That was helpful sitting down with them
And that's what
they were proposing ideas and what about this, and they said that doesn't work because this, and so. Yeah, I'm not an expert in.
Do you still have concerns with their budget and that they're not handling it correctly?
No, that's
Well,
not what.
hold on, let
No,
me
wait,
just hear
no,
'em.
no,
And I don't think-
that's not what I'm saying.
Well, that is what it sounds
I
like.
am saying that they need to look within their budget. Yeah, I wanna know what the police cars, when we move them over to the, yes, I wanna ask questions about the budget. I haven't been able to. I wanna
Right,
know
that's why I'm
when that's
asking,
going
I'm
release
asking
agreement.
the police liaison if he feels the same way as you.
Well, that's not fair, Brandon, when he just came in and just got put on this.
He has been meeting with
I have
them on a
some
regular
history.
basis,
I have
so.
some history with budgeting with
Well,
this, so.
Brandon has his own voice.
Okay, Council President,
Well, I'm just trying, look, I know you don't like it when I do this to you, but listen, this is democracy, okay?
well, absolutely.
So everyone has their share to their own
And
statements.
that's exactly what I was saying.
I'm not trying to make you a bad guy, so just relax.
No, and that's exactly what I said. I said, we need to sit down collaboratively with these guys with the special
I
meetings.
know this is how you feel. I wanna know how he feels. I know how you feel about it.
But wouldn't that be the answer to it?
No, because he has his own view of
I was just saying we sit down in a special meeting
Brandon's
with.
big thing right now. I don't know why you're doing that. He could have just said how he felt.
Okay,
It's probably the same as you felt.
go ahead, Councilor Sundy.
I think we need to look at the police budget, just like we need to look at every other budget, and if we can find savings and anywhere, I think is a good thing. To me, I hear loud and clear the police saying we need people. That's their primary concern right now. I also have a concern though, that if we put the police station too far on the back burner, that it's never gonna happen. And to me, that's two separate issues because they're still saying we need a police station. So to me, staffing is priority, but I think we need to find a way to get them a police station. If not right now, soon, because I don't want this to be another hospital that people have been
Exactly.
promised this and then it never happens. So my concern is if you're moving funds around and you're devoting them to other things, like Jessica asked, where's that money gonna come back into the picture that we get a new police station? Because there's not much we can do with the one we've got now. It's
So-
not like that can be,
Here's what I'm asking the entire council is my question to you is this cannot wait till budget committee. And then be adopted afterwards. I think it requires immediate council action to have a meeting with the police on a special meeting in here to talk about staffing and police station and moving forward. And get some direction from that meeting.
I agree.
Who's in charge of the budget for the police?
That would be, it would be Chief Greenway, first and foremost, and then you have, Jose, Costello and Lieutenant Hogue. Those three are actually the ones who have them deal with the
He's
budget.
in charge.
The chief's in charge, yes.
Well, all we saw him was the time during the new police station thing, he was talking about cadets and never talked about budgets or anything, and if he's in charge, let's hear from him.
Yeah.
All I heard from you is he's on vacation or something.
Yeah, he was.
All I wanna see out of this is that we're moving towards some sort of resolution.
Yeah.
I mean, sooner than later, but I mean, I think we need to, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And sit down and do it. That's all I ask, is that we're communicating and figuring out what needs to be done.
Our financial director will have everybody sit down, let's just. And if nobody's accusing anybody of anything, we're just trying to look at where we can save money and find ways of creating more officer positions. You know, I questioned the lease agreement with the cars. It's nice to have new cars, but is it really saving us that much money? Those are answers I don't know. I wanna ask.
I just think it's been brought up before, but I think we need to have a goal in sight, something that we're shooting towards, because otherwise.
Yes.
Exactly.
Just every year, it's the same thing. When you look back in the newspapers, this has been a discussion for years, and so. What's our goal? What do we need to get to? And if we have no idea what we're working towards, we're just gonna keep.
Well, a part of that goal needs to be a sustainable plan, and that's what they've been asking for since I was first assigned to the police, was a plan in place that allows for them to make the budget projections that they need for officers retiring and things like that. That has been one of the problems since the very beginning.
If we don't know how many officers we need, how can we plan for it? I don't. We need to know, what are we shooting for?
That'd be part of the discussion too.
Because if we're just working on filling gaps constantly, it doesn't seem like a good. Doesn't seem like it's working.
This is bad, I mean, this is bad time. We've got Cascades gone, right? So we're taking a huge hit there. So it's like,
But we can figure this out, and that's why I can't just do this sooner than later.
I think it'd be helpful to get everybody involved at the table, because it's hard to talk to this person about it and then go talk to this person about it and get an email from this person. Let's
agree.
get everybody there.
We shoot in February to sit down and meet.
I'm good. I'm up for it.
I mean, even if
We need it this month, we need it this month.
ASAP.
Because these decisions about the police station project in particular are having an impact on staff direction for infrastructure projects that we're working on now.
I can only meet, after the last week would be for me.
I think that it would be key to figure out the chief's availability,
Yes.
because if he's not sitting at the table, it doesn't matter.
27th, 28th, 29th. Yep.
Of January,
Yeah.
I'm not available though.
Okay.
Is that the
I'm not
first thing
in-
we need to figure out though, is what we're gonna do at the police station?
Well, she's saying that if we decide to allocate the funds from the police station to other projects, she needs to know that now. Right?
Well, yes, but also, but Gloria needs to build a budget for next year and the police station is,
It's central.
it's central to
I've been
this.
available before. Between, I'm free. I don't know about anybody else, but we got a couple of weeks. I'm not free from the 16th to the 26th. Matter of fact, this meeting. You're on the 17th meeting.
Oh, good. I'm gonna do a whole bunch of stuff while you're gone. Are you ready?
Is there any availability with everybody next week?
I'm available.
I can do next week.
See if the chief is available. What times work for him? Let's make it happen.
If we could send out like an email with some different times that maybe the chief is available and then an alternate.
Does it work for us?
I know he has some leave, the family leave coming up.
Who does?
Chief,
Is it next
bereavement leave.
Thursday? Is that when we have our? Is that the initial budget meetings Thursday?
Thursday is a orientation, kind of a training meeting with the,
Just for the new members, or is that all of us?
preferably all of you.
So Gloria builds the budget in between and then we come back together and go over what you've built.
Critique it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But we really, really need council direction for this in order to be able to build
It's
that.
particular, yes.
Yeah, if we're moving the $10 towards staffing, we can move forward with staffing.
Yep, immediately.
Immediately, and as soon as it's.
Right.
What's it take to do that?
And that is really what we've heard a lot from
Language in it.
the chief, is that if they could hire people now, they can get them trained. And hopefully have them at least partially trained by the time those retirements happen. So being able to make these decisions now is the difference between getting those positions hired and getting our projects going on those projects, yes. For instance, the undergrounding.
Look at training all the time. Seems like we're always looking at training cadets or training.
Takes a year in the academy.
Well, no, why don't we hire an officer?
We do try to get laterals when we can.
Yeah, it's tough. We asked that question. It's just tough, tough to get the officers right now too.
Let's get Boosters taking some.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've said in the interview process myself, and I know we have very high standards, like they answer a question wrong, they're off, don't even finish the interview. Extremely high standards, which is part of what makes the St. Helens Police the best police in the county, in my opinion, is the high standards, but then that could also eliminate a lot of lateral people that have been trained a certain way and have been working that certain way for 20 years. And that's something that maybe we don't allow in our.
You're vetting them in the process then, is what you're saying. But I mean, everybody's having trouble finding professionals already educated and then ready to go to work, but it's out there.
And stuff that
You know,
it's getting smaller and smaller.
Just going to the academy and waiting for a year and a half or whatever, you're locking yourselves into a position.
I know.
No, laterals are.
Yeah.
But we won't even know that if we can get laterals, all this gets moved. Right, because we're not,
We have to advertise.
well, I know, but I mean, we have to have the money there to hire them, right, and then we'll know. If we're gonna hire recruits or we're gonna hire.
Typically takes quite a while to get somebody on board between the advertising period and interviewing.
Kathy and Lisa, are we looking at a special session then? Is that what we're calling it?
I guess you could call it a special session. I mean, we're.
Are you making
we're-
decisions at that meeting? Like, that's a question
Well, yeah, it sounds like we have to,
for
right?
advertising.
It wouldn't be a bad idea in case we wanted to make a decision that we could,
So that,
you know, instead of just a direction, you know? Ask them what would they prefer, because we can get direction and at least have direction to budget towards.
Well, we've got a council meeting on the 17th, so that could be the decision if we wanna make this just information. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming.
I was only looking for direction on really three things. One of them was, and we have a 20% reserve policy. I don't see us any way of getting any traction with that, because that's about a $600,000 or $700,000 to get from 15 back to 20. Are we okay with staying at 15 for now? The second was, you know, how do you feel about the reallocation of the public safety fee, the $10 fee going, you know, towards hiring more officers? And a third, this $750,000 payment that's currently going to impact general fund and services is a really big hit to the general fund if we plan for that. You know, taking that out, getting that debt over to projects that are currently under construction where it can be utilized and not suffer from being eroded by inflation, and seems like a good path and use of that money. And that was the third. And that going forward with that, you know, how we get the police station built, you know, putting it out to the voters is, you know, working on finding a site, we're coming all those other things. And there's some operational aspects around, you know, ship scheduling and things like that that have some opportunities as well.
So I think, yeah, I think meet with the police, union people and our chief and, lieutenant, and hopefully chief will be available. Hopefully he'll make the time available. And then, we can discuss that, and that we don't lose. We need a new station. I mean, that station's 2,200 square feet old. 2,200 houses are bigger than that.
Anybody disagrees?
Yes.
They don't mind.
Well, while all 5 members of council are here, can we talk about dates and times so that we don't have to try to.
I'm flexible. You can put me for any.
just to be honest, I live by the calendar on my desk at work, so I really can't give you any information until, I'm sure I can work it in. Whatever we decide, I will do my best. I know it's a priority.
Okay, great. Same with Russ, Brandon. Okay, awesome. That's just on the chief then to find availability.
And I would love to have the union guys here because they have leverage and also knowing direction moving forwards too. You know, because we don't know what this year's gonna look like, and I know they're up for a contract too. I mean, I want them all on board.
So yeah, I appreciate hearing from the chief and the administration, but I appreciate hearing from the officers too.
Yeah,
So I think
yes,
it's, I
that's
think
fine.
it's helpful to have both covered.
So. Okay, if you can facilitate that, that'd be great. Okay, let's go ahead and, we're not even gonna take a break at 4. We don't have any, executive session stuff.
We do not, no.
So we'll go ahead and do our city administrator report and then we'll get out of here.
All right, well, happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year.
With all of that, there's a lot to be excited about in 24, I believe. There's all the, what we've been working on for more than a decade, backing up to 2009, when we first had the waterfront overlay district on the Veneer property. You know, the city, those before us all had a vision of doing something with the waterfront, and that's all through a lot of hard work, coming to life. It was 2014 when we did sustainable design assessment team, brought that team of architects from around the country to give us their no holes barred kind of opinion of what we should do with it. And the final planning, the infrastructure, where the roads align, we don't know where the buildings are gonna go exactly, but it really seems to be following in that same vein. But it's been 10 years of community planning, lots of input, acquiring the property, creating the riverfront district, the Urban Renewal Agency we initially formed in 2017. You may not know that we initially, the city looked at forming Urban Renewal Agency back in 2008, which was probably a good idea, but they didn't because of the way the city finances went. And we lost, I think, 25% of our staff overall, 30% of the general fund. We had to lay off or attrition a lot of staff. It took several years to crawl back out of that and get to the place we are right now.
Were you working here then?
Except 2012.
That's what I thought.
But if the budget was still, we were still putting lots of reserves in the budget, taking it down and down and down. We finally had to just stop and get rid of people. I mean, it just was unsustainable. Tomorrow we have a meeting in this room with the Riverfront business, downtown residents and businesses to talk about the in the next few months of construction on the Riverfront. We're going to start moving up the street and doing intersection improvements. And that's going to have impacts to businesses, to traffic and deliveries. Very complicated, and we're going to do what we can to make the most of it and communicate well. There's definitely going to be some disruption there that we're wanting to get in front of there. So, Mohammed and his people out here, Wales, myself, and others talk about that. And then as we get further along with infrastructure, with getting to the point where the more visible infrastructure start to come out, where the pipes are getting in the ground and the curbs are getting in planters. Getting to a point where we'd like to go back out later this year on a request for proposals to go back and try to get development from private interest. Building all this public infrastructure so that we can attract private investment. And the sooner we can kind of roll out of the public into the private, get those properties on the tax rolls. So it's good. So we'll come back to you a little bit further in the summer, probably, unless you have some urgency to do it sooner. Later. Project Sprint is their letter of intent comes due here in a couple of weeks, and Mohammed and myself and Paul Ogle and a whole host of others, PGE and PUD have all been working really hard to try to get them the information they need to make a decision on whether they're going to move forward or not. We should know very soon. I think
Well, but they may need an extension.
they may need a little time, but we're
Nothing major.
nothing major.
Yeah.
All seems to be good. We don't know for sure, but you know what that project would mean. Bringing family wage jobs back. Fantastic utility customer for city coffers and the tax base jobs. All of it would just be really huge for our community. We hope and get yes. And there seems to be some confusion out there that it's the existing mill and Project Sprint would be over the top of the existing mill footprint, and that we don't. So far, they've not proposed any buildings that are in the footprint of the current mill site. Which Cascades left on good terms. They left the property is good or better than they found it, but just a lot of things to manage. It should hopefully have value and be worth our time. And we've been working on drafting a redevelopment strategy, probably leading into some kind of a business plan model. I've had quite a range of interests, anywhere from scrappers and equipment buyers and sellers, all the way up to somebody that wants to restart the paper making operations and get going here, get it back, making paper again.
Have you contacted him?
We have contacted. He's going to be out here in a week or two.
Oh, yeah, good.
And,
Do you need a ROI or LOI?
No. We've got other development groups approaching us to do business park concepts. We're not sure how that fits with the LOI with Anchor and Solar at this point, so we're just we're not doing anything. We're just talking.
You have had other interests though.
A lot of it from
The old
salvage, scrap, parts buyers, other mills have been contacting to want to, get spare parts and bits and pieces off the machines.
I think so.
So yeah, there's been a lot of interest, and the lowest value is gonna be scrap. And there are, several warehouses that are newer, they're in really good shape. They, they have upgraded structural and fire systems, and then there's other buildings that are, not so much. Their fate is probably, flattened at some point, but gonna take some effort to get there. And, Rory Moore has been facilitating a lot of that work. That.
Sorry about that.
Please, wife.
Sorry, there was something dropping from the ceiling, the roof outside. I'm not worried about here.
Darren, we caught him.
So on that, back to the mill though, just a little bit, well, as you start getting these proposals and these ideas, can we, I know that you're working and doing your job. But it seems like we, I think if we were aware of a little bit of those activities as they come and, I don't even know collectively. Wouldn't mind sitting down with, people who have done this before. Because I know there's been plenty of people in our situation who's have had mills in their town shut down. And what's the best repurposing, or, what buildings are good, which aren't, what's the best repurposing, and the wisest way to go moving forward. I don't have all those answers, it's not what I do. I want the experts that do.
Yeah, I feel like this has been an information gathering month. You're taking a lot of input. Do you send something to an auction? Do you work with a resale buyer? Do we?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of variables, and we're not.
That's what I want.
Promises to anybody.
Well, kind of what I want is, somebody who's. I'm not saying that you're not good, but it'd be nice for us to
It's a
hear
lot.
a bunch of opinions on it.
It's a lot, yeah. Something specific around that we could. Yeah,
But I just know we got a deep water port, we got some old buildings there that's very valuable, we got power source that's willing to come in to make that property sufficient enough to make it really highly desirable and developable. And maybe it already is partly there for somebody, I don't know what part. I don't think the 1918 part, that the roof was rotten out and stuff.
Pigeon poop.
Oh,
Yeah, but wouldn't you want to vet the people looking at starting the mill up first, rather than trying to?
If we could get some revenue, yeah, I would.
It's real, get some of the contracts rules, that's
Yeah.
fine.
When I heard about it,
Yeah.
he was just discussing with us, it was very, very interesting.
So, yeah, yeah.
And he was gonna come in, I mean, if in the best case scenario, he'd come in, want to start the mill up. He'd employ 100 people. He would use, what is it, recycled paper, no new fiber. Which is being thrown in the garbage dump now by the garbage.
Sure,
companies
they get it for free.
Because China's not buying
Yeah.
the recycled paper now, so it just goes in the landfill. So there's.
I definitely would, I think that anybody who wants to come in that's viable, as long as the building's not gonna fall down on them and it's cost effective for them, absolutely.
You guys done it before.
There's this temporary shoring down there.
We spend money on redesigning it.
Well, nothing matters if Project Sprint moves further though,
Well, it
right?
would be a foot nine. It was-
It would be utilizing that whole
They're separate.
area.
No, not completely,
I know
no.
you said that they wouldn't be building over those current buildings, but they would probably still want that space, right?
It would be, it's rather that side. A lot of area back there to create parking lots and things.
They wouldn't be using any of those existing buildings. We could still have separate.
Like training center, the rec, the reception center, that would probably go away.
Oh, I find it fascinating, 100 jobs, yeah, they can make it work,
But The
absolutely.
way you drew it on the aerial photo there. Sprint would be out more in the parking lot area, as we say.
Right.
On that area, and they take down one building maybe right behind there, but all the mill's still intact. Whether or not, they're gonna be driving the bus.
Yeah, it saved the White House, it did save the White House for sure, and maybe even just missed that first little real building of the mill.
But I mean, if, you know, then you got one operator, if you can get two, fantastic. Let's see what we can do with that mill.
We can
The
use
other
it.
thing would be
It's there.
whether they cannibalize the parts off it and start it up again. You know, I don't know what kind of parts they were wanting to dryer.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything that's not easily
Okay.
replaceable. And before you sell off all the spare parts and, you know, that's, you wanna know that before you.
Yeah, you don't want to sell anything.
Let's hope Project Sprint says, yes, we wanna go, cause that's gonna be, take a
Yes,
lot,
so,
we
yeah.
may be getting this.
Optimistic, aren't you, Rick?
Well, yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, I have a good feeling about these guys. I still do. I really do.
I'm cautiously optimistic.
I'm optimistic. I'm just concerned about PGE.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, we wouldn't, we would already have, I think, a yes answer if we had the power here.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
I mean, I know we do.
Have we heard any discussion about that lately?
It's still moving forward. Last I heard, I'm gonna be including on an update on 11th, but you had a meeting not too long ago, right? I don't know if Russ, you heard that.
Next,
The 11th or the 10th? Yeah.
so no more than it's, really the actual power can get to the mill, but it's going to be easements to properties that are private property. So PG would have to assist in coming through their area from.
Where would it be coming from?
First point was church road.
Church Road.
Yeah, church. I'm trying to remember, John.
Yeah, there's a line that runs perpendicular to Highway 30, it's up about 4 miles.
Total is 6 miles, as they said, yeah. That's, the power seems like it's not an issue, but getting the property for an easement for the power lines.
Yeah.
Fortunately, PG's just been servicing that one little site
Yeah.
for years, and they've never upgraded anything from Harborton on down this way, or Scappoose. So ideally, PGE in the future, I think, has to really pull the trigger and develop that all the way down their existing line. So getting property is so difficult. You can have 10 people out of 12, and these 2 people hold up the whole process just because you can't get their property. And they're not even asking for.
They're not asking for property easements.
The trouble is, a typical easement is 50 to 75 feet. Since it's a larger line power, they require 150 feet.
Yeah.
So
It's a pretty big area.
a lot of people aren't gonna be happy about that, so.
But they pay going rate for whatever those easements
I
are.
was gonna ask if they
Yeah.
pay people for that.
Yeah. But once they buy the easement, they've got it forever. Yeah, they do. So fingers crossed, that's still gonna. Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna sideline your.
We were done that. But, if there's any other questions about the mill or repurposing, reuse planning, I think there's just a lot of decisions to be made this the next month. One other comment related to that was that the existing machines are really only valuable if they're kept rolls turning and some minimal amount of heat on them. If it gets below freezing, so they've authorized Roy Moore to spend 4 hours a week turning those machines, at least for the next few weeks until he gets out here.
Especially if someone looking to start up again.
Yeah. We do have the ability to add some heat to that too if we need to.
And I talked to, I think it's Mark out there, who's that guy.
More clapping, yeah.
And the water's been shut off. But he had mentioned that he wants to start up the fire hydrants. Because then you'd have live fire hydrants out there.
Valves.
The valves of that, it's gonna take some doing. The way most mills are is they expand. They have in-house plumbers and whatever, steam fitters. So they attach to a pipe and run it to the. And, you come in and go, well, turn this valve, well, didn't shut that off, and you thought it's just a mess, it's spaghetti all over the place, so. It's a little bit of a problem in a situation like this. But the priority would be identify those fire hydrants, get those operations. And also made the comment that I think Kalama, Vancouver, and Portland Fire with their fireboats should be notified that you are on limited protection down here. So they can come by boat, power up any amount of water you need. And maybe when you talk to the insurance people, they're gonna
Ask that.
reiterate that.
Get her tomorrow.
Okay.
I actually just want to comment on the plan that you came up with to keep those buildings safe and operational. And how cost effective it looked to me, and not trying to be cheap over here, but you know, I think it looked really good, and I thank you for your time on that, and whoever else worked on it, I don't know, but. It looked well thought out, and it looked very creative, and it looked like it wasn't just throwing money at it. It was really trying to, how are we gonna do this? That makes sense to keep our, you know, assets safe, but also not cost more money to the city, so.
Which leads me to a question. You want to keep the propane tanks? Listen,
Try to take them?
why? We're leasing them, so we gotta pay the lease now. Talk about.
Well, the big tank, their little tanks are there for heat.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
That's a little, tanks.
just the little tanks.
Yeah. And there's
You don't
heaters,
lease those.
we don't lease those.
This is about a lease on bigger tanks.
There's a 500 gallon, the tank, 500 gallons of propane up there.
But you're gonna have to lease it every month from.
Um,
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I read that somewhere. Okay, but we oughta. Give the tank back to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we don't-
give them the tank, and they'll pay us for it. If there's propane, they'll pay for it, propane. I squeeze pennies.
We gotta be creative right now, I mean, hard time.
No, that's good. Other than that, the tourism contract, last meeting expressed a desire for a short-term extension. I don't know what that looks like exactly, what you're thinking that looks like, if you want us just forward it on to legal, or if there's some kind of group that's gonna look at that. Mr. Freeheim's comments on the use of the hotel motel tax funds are accurate. My lens with that is that St. Helens is one of those communities that prior to 2002, because they implemented that ordinance is not subject to the state's definition of the use of funds, which is the 70% goes to tourism, 30% can go to administrative uses. Our code's actually more restrictive than that. I hadn't read that in quite a while, so thank you for bringing that up. To my opinion, I was incorrect in my statement. So that would be something we need to kind of address
Moving forward.
forward. So
I think, are you going to extend the tourism contract?
I don't know what that looks like to the council. The current contract was proposing to change the model. We're calling it a franchise model, but it's really just more like a business proposal. That was something you're interested in, or if you,
Well, I think there's definitely an expressed interest to,
We're gonna talk about that tonight.
this is,
well, now will be a good time.
Not on the agenda for.
Yeah, but for direction of, for looking at the contract, the current
Well,
contract.
we need a new one, just like I stated, everything's up in the air here. Let's start over. And get some ideas from the community, the stakeholders, the business people. So I don't wanna make a tourism committee, let's have the committee look at the new contract, they give it to an attorney and it's boilerplate that has to be built in any contract, yeah, the attorney will. But I think it's just like the woman we talked about the Christian time down here and stuff, so. Not to get specific, but I mean, there's a lot of people
Sure, a
out
different
there
view.
that have views.
I see what you're saying.
So, and then whether it's a franchise or not, there's an opportunity to look at that, but, I think we've got to do that, just where we're at, and this is a good time as any, and this contract is over with, and let's start fresh.
But you, it sounds like you would be willing to, and somebody else. Well, you would
Since I've been down this path.
kind of do the feelers and go. Get some information sooner than later. And if you need to facilitate a meeting, you're gonna have it here. It doesn't have to be, just whatever type of meeting you want.
Well, I think.
Because this each
the
council
people
is
we
together
would
and
want-
everything.
People we would want.
Yeah.
Would be, the ones that so polarize it, they're all for it or they're all against it. It's not what we're looking at, you know. Let's talk about the people that are the stakeholders here, and the stakeholders are down to the citizens, but I mean, when you have a business here and that sort of thing, they're in tune with what happens in the city more than anybody else. So, I think just get some ideas on that, bring them to you. I only talked to Brandon about it, we never sort of got on track to do that, and so much else going on, but we gotta get that going now. Now we have a mission to do. We could get that put together. You know, I'm always listening to storekeepers and everything, and there's a lot of comments and good ones. And some like, never mind, and, you know, but everybody's gotta have their voice, and, you know, you gotta let it happen at this point, because I don't think, we're letting the city go down a road here, which, you know, is a liability, because some things have been going on. So we need to change that, because we got to keep the city from litigious things as much as we can.
Sure.
I suggest that when you're doing this, that you talk to the city attorneys about independent contractor rules. So that you're not beating on a drum that isn't even possible. So that's my advice to you after I've already went down this path before. And so I want you to just know that's something you're gonna wanna look into and get legal advice on.
So I think we need to look at all avenues, whether it's employee, contractor, and
Yeah.
franchise things.
Yeah.
You know, it's all how it's gonna be put together for the benefit of the city and the city it really defined what happens. I guess that's what needs to be clarified.
Prior to the last independent contractor agreement, we started with kind of the spectrum of potential administration, and one end of the spectrum, it was, you know, city staff leading that internally as a city employee. And at the other end was a private entity that just kind of takes it over, runs it. And council was leaning more that way, and that's where we're at, and it was all vetted by legal and everything else to try to get it as close as we could to.
Yeah, but legal has their place, right, because they do keep us out of trouble. But legal can't tell you what the taxpayers and the citizens want for a mission for their tourism. The way I would want to start this get together that we're gonna have is, let's define the word tourism. Start there. Now it's a little bit of everything. It's gonna be fine, but get that down and find out what the project's gonna be.
Sure.
The state defines it.
What?
The state defines tourism as, you know, a person traveling up to 50 miles for an overnight stay. But we can come up with our own definition.
No, I don't need, let's find out what the state says and what, you know.
Means what that means to us here, what type of tourism are we trying to create and attract to St. Helens?
And what are the effects? I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cause and effect and all that stuff. So, you guys were willing to do that? Go out and meet with some people and then get something together and have some discussions.
Basically, I've heard John say before, tourism has always been controversial. I don't know that it needs to be as controversial as it is, so if we can do something to get rid of some of that controversy and make it work better for everybody involved, I think that's a good thing.
I do too. I would 100% agree.
And if we can't, we say we tried.
Yeah, that's all you can do. Yep, perfect.
And just lastly, with my report, unless there's other questions, is just to notice that we submitted $150,000 grant on last Friday to the Marine Board to do courthouse dock improvements down there. We're doing the tie rails, some of the welds are broken, some of the skimmer boom bits and pieces or need repairs, and we're
Is that anything, that's not the dock themselves, that's just the pylon?
Part of it is,
Yeah, it's all of it. They,
even the rails are considered part, the skimmer rails out there.
yeah, even, well,
One kind of bent, right?
yeah, some of the shackles are broken. The Marine Board came out and did an assessment of all Sand Island docks and.
That's what I was gonna ask you about Sand Island docks too, 'cause those are city docks
And
also.
those docks are better now that we made the investment in those bolts and those are all tied up.
Those bolts were expensive.
I remember.
It's all expensive. But yeah, that's,
Thanks. Well, hopefully we.
Yeah,
we're trying to make our docks inviting. Right now, there's nothing else to tie to, you have to wrap around poles up here on the outside. It's places.
What else you got there? Anything? Okay. All right, well, we are.